News when you want it with Bloomberg NewsNow. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Thursday on Wall Street, where a rally in oil prices left stocks wavering and fueled some worries about inflation ahead of tomorrow's jobs report. We bring you the closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 lost about 14 points. NASDAQ down 15 points. The Dow is down 464 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.66% and the 2-year yield at 4.24%. And some earnings to tell you about. Airbnb jumped 11% in the post-market after broadcasting revenue for the third quarter beating estimates. And Sweetgreen revenue missed estimates for the second quarter. Sweetgreen shares dropped more than 9% in the post-market. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky has been discharged from rehab. McConnell has been absent from the Senate since June when he suffered a fall at home. A statement from McConnell says he will continue his recovery and physical therapy at home. McConnell is not running for re-election. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has demanded more transparency from McConnell on his health and his ability to return to the Senate. We turn now to the Strait of Hormuz, where Iran's Fars news agency reported Iran has struck hostile targets in the strait as the parties wait for more details about the Iranian deal with Oman to partially reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That is reportedly in its final stages, with an understanding in principle reached. Iran's Fars news agency says the deal would give Iran oversight of the waterway and reportedly says any nation that caused damage to Iran won't be granted a permit to pass through. That includes U.S. and Israeli vessels that would be prohibited under this deal. Bloomberg White House correspondent Jeff Mason says President Trump has said in the past he wouldn't support that.
The United States has maintained that presence in large part to give him continued options with that blockade and just in general having forces in the region so that he can continue to make the threats even when he doesn't follow through on them.
Bloomberg's Jeff Mason on balance of power. Oil is higher. WTI crude oil closing in on $78 a barrel. Brent crude nearing $83 a barrel. President Trump has been speaking by phone with Kevin Warsh since he's become Fed chair. Sources tell Bloomberg News the two have talked multiple times since Warsh was confirmed in May. One source says the president has asked about forecasts and opinions, but has not pushed for a specific course of action. It is not clear if they've discussed monetary policy. The Financial Times reports Chairman Warsh plans to stick to his stripped-down public communications policy, even after the minimal details from his last rate decision sparked a Treasury sell-off. Bloomberg Economics chief U.S. economist Anna Wong says Warsh has said he's not sure yet what he'll talk about when he attends the Jackson Hole Economic Policy Symposium later this month.
Typically, the Fed should be well underway, and then he should be redlining his speech right now. I think what he has to do in this speech is to reestablish the credibility that he has somewhat lost in the last press conference.
Anna Wong with Bloomberg Economics on Bloomberg Surveillance. The Financial Times report says that Warsh is prepared to hike interest rates if inflation comes in hot in coming weeks. The Senate Homeland Security Committee voted to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 100 times last week in response to how he handled the COVID pandemic. Committee Chair Rand Paul.
Dr. Fauci faced no risk of federal prosecution. All he had to do was tell the truth. That is what we are voting on today. Not his opinions, not his policies. We are voting on whether a witness who has received the benefit of a sweeping federal pardon can be ordered by this committee to answer questions and then defy that order without consequence.
Ranking Democrat Senator Gary Peters.
If this committee now seeks to punish a witness for asserting their constitutional protected Fifth Amendment rights, future witnesses will argue that appearing before Congress exposes them to punishment regardless of whether they comply with the subpoena and invoke a constitutional protection.
Republican Senator Ron Johnson says he's obtained a copy of Fauci's government cell phone, claiming on a social media post that the phone could answer some of the questions Fauci refused to address. The Federal Communications Commission voted to repeal a nationwide audience cap, limiting the number of TV viewing households one single broadcaster could reach. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr argues the rule relaxation is necessary to help broadcasters stay competitive. The move is also key for Nexstar's acquisition of rival Tegna, which would reach 80% of U.S. households, well over the limit of 39%. President Trump's administration plans to overhaul Head Start, a key early education program for the nation's poorest children. Officials from the Department of Health and Human Services say the changes posted would encourage more local decision-making by eliminating federal regulations. Critics argue that could undermine Head Start's effectiveness. The public has 60 days to weigh in. SpaceX shares more than 2% higher in regular trading after a $100 billion insider lockup expired today. More than 900 million shares were released. Add that to the 639 million already out there, and that is more than 1.5 billion shares of SpaceX available to trade. NASA astronauts Jessica Meir and Anil Menon have concluded their spacewalk outside the International Space Station. Menon's first spacewalk, it was Meir's sixth. During the 6-hour, 27-minute spacewalk, Meir and Menon completed their primary objectives, including preparing a new solar array for ISS. This was the 281st spacewalk at the International Space Station. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg NewsNow. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.